Hey, everybody, welcome to the Chris and Dan Show. Glad to have you here with us. So, we're going to get into Bitcoin a little bit here today. And remember, this is not financial advice. So,
Yes,
you really got to do your own research.
except if you consider it such, and then it's Chris's responsibility.
Hell no. What, are you trying to get me in trouble? So,
Not financial advice.
yeah, this is not advice. Matter of fact, I
Matter of
strongly
fact, it's
advise.
two morons talking about something they know very little about.
Yeah, and Dan knows a little more than I, so he's
No,
telling it how it is. No, you know more about
I
Bitcoin
might
than
know
I
more
do.
about the how it works from a technical perspective, which is kind of flipped. Our knowledge base is usually the opposite, but in this case, you probably know better how it's tied to the economy, and I know better about
Oh,
cryptography. I took a course in cryptography.
sure. Okay, fair enough. Um, so I was watching this YouTube show yesterday, and they brought up the fact that the halving is coming again. We're a
Mhm.
little less than a year away, which I haven't been following anything on
The
Bitcoin.
memes are coming back too, like the Game of
Are they?
Thrones winter is coming, the halving is
Okay.
coming.
Okay. So they really only discussed one topic on the show, and that was uh how the federal government dictates the price of Bitcoin to a degree. And I didn't disagree with anything he was saying. He was just saying that the easing of the monetary policy by the Fed has always coincided for some reason with the halving. Now there's limited data here. There's only been two halvings, right? There was one in 2012
That's it.
and one in 2000. Well, I have the halvings here. Here, let me share my screen.
They're every 4 years, no?
Yeah, but the first one was in 2012.
Okay, 2012,
So
2016.
you can see my screen.
Yeah,
So the first halving was in no. Sorry, there's been three halvings. So the first one is 28th of November 2012. Second
yeah.
was in 2016, and the third was in 2020.
Right.
Okay, so the next is in 2024, supposed to be April like 20 something.
The
But
fourth halving.
yeah, fourth halving in April. So
Uh-huh.
um he had shown on this YouTube channel that the Fed had always eased monetary policy right at the halving. Now, what that kind of dictates is how the increases happen, right? Because the more liquidity there is in markets, obviously it's got to go somewhere. So a lot of people are putting it in Bitcoin, most likely, as well as the stock market and other areas, real estate. Um, so that could explain from the halving to the peak price point, but I don't necessarily think that explains the lead up to halving, right? So what history shows, and I'm sorry, I'm not great at organizing Excel spreadsheets, so I don't know how clear this is to those looking at it, but um, if you look at the first halving, which occurred again November 28th, 2012, um, it it's the low point, at least what I could find. So I used Trading View to find the Bitcoin price at different points. The lowest point I could find of Bitcoin, and it only went back to 2000, early 2011. The low point was October 2011 at $2 a coin. Okay, could you imagine if you bought like 1,000 coins? Then you spent 2 grand, went crazy.
Yeah, and I knew about Bitcoin back then too. But you know
Yeah,
what?
if
It
you went,
was not easy to buy it. That's what people are always kicking themselves in the ass. Like, oh, I if I would have bought it, it was you had to be a nerd before 2016. You
Mhm,
had to be a nerd to buy Bitcoin. Like there was no Coinbase, there was
right?
no Ledger. You had to like code yourself to buy this shit. So normal people wouldn't have bought it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's why it's gained popularity because I would assume, because it's become much more
Right,
manageable, right?
right, right.
Um, so anyhow, October 2011, it was $2 a coin, somewhere in that realm, right? So I was looking at it on the monthly basis. So all these prices may not be exactly correct because I was looking at it on the entirety of the month, not individual days. So for the
Right.
month October 2011, it was $2. Um, so the following halving, which was somewhere on here, I have it stated. So lowest price to halving was 13 months, right? So from 2011, October 2011 to November 28th, 2012, 13 months. You had an increase in price of 7 times, right? So it went from $2 to $13, 6.5 times.
Mhm.
So obviously you would, in a short period of time, a little over a year, you can make 7 times your money at that point, right?
Not
So
bad.
very worthwhile investment. A year's time, looking you're usually looking to get around 10% on your money, right? This is 700%. I would say that's pretty good. So, and I don't have really any data on why it decreases. So for that first halving, from that low to the halving 7 times, the next one was only 5 times.
Mhm.
This last halving was only 3 times. So I don't know if that's any indication as to what's going to happen for the next halving here in a year, a little less than a year. If I had to guess, and entirely this is a guess, I would say the numbers would be comparable to 2020, because a lot of things happened in 2020. Obviously the pandemic.
Mhm.
A lot of people became very involved in things they weren't uh, knowledgeable of previously: politics,
A lot of excess money.
cryptocurrency, a lot of excess money. So why I think it might be similar, again, this is just one stupid individual's opinion,
Hmm.
um, is we're going to be approaching the presidential race. Matter of fact, we'll be in full swing at that point when the halving occurs.
The halving will be November 5th.
No, so the next halving is in April.
Oh, okay.
The next presidential election is 7 months later.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they're
We'll be
gonna
in the
have,
thick of it.
yeah, they're definitely going to have, at least in my opinion, if President Biden wants to be reelected, they have to loosen monetary policy. You can't be in the middle of restraining the economy.
Makes
There has
sense. I like how you thought this through. You're
there ha-
convincing me. I know you're not a financial advisor. You're convincing me to buy more.
okay. Well, I plan on buying some more.
Me too.
Um, but I like to think it through in terms of, will there be liquidity? Getting back to that other video that I had watched, that always, for whatever reason, it's always timed that the Fed is loosening monetary policy as Bitcoin has. Um, and I certainly could see that happening again, just because it has to, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise there's no way Biden gets reelected if everybody's hurting, right? At least not in my opinion. I think
Mhm.
they have to loosen the monetary policy, and I think they have no choice. Even at this point, I really think they have limited choices, just because it's not really doing as they would expect by tightening the policy, other than it's going to hurt Biden's reelection possibilities, at least in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah.
You have any thoughts on this?
I think it's a good idea. I like your rationale.
But what I find intriguing, which really makes sense, because as Bitcoin gained popularity, or not even necessarily popularity, just people became aware of it, the 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 multiples of profit kind of went down, right? Because there was more, as you drive price up, there's going to be less demand,
Mhm.
right? So I don't know what happened to screen share there. Did you
Oh,
get
I
rid of
took
it?
it off. I thought you were done.
No, that's fine. That's
Oh,
fine. I was just going to say,
I'll put it back.
all right, I was just going to show a couple more interesting, what I think at least is interesting. So, so from having to the high point, Bitcoin at the first halving went up 90 times, right?
Yeah.
And from the
Uh,
low to the peak, it went up 585 times,
wow.
right? So from October 2011 to the peak, which was December 2013, it went up 585 times, right?
Wow.
So it's pretty good return.
585, 127, 22.
Yeah. So you see how it's diminishing,
Yeah.
but that certainly makes sense because the price goes up.
Yes.
Um,
So this time it will be like
it
six
could be.
times.
It could be. There's
Yeah.
definitely that possibility. You might get a 1.5 from low to halving, but I think it'll be greater than that. I really think it's going to be similar to what we got last time, if I had to guess. And again, this is just a guess.
When will we know the answer?
Well, we'll know after the halving.
Yeah, but when?
Well, I mean, it'll be
Like how
interesting.
long after the halving do you have to wait?
Oh, until you know what the peak is.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that's been pretty constant. I guess I could have had this on here before, but price from preceding low to halving is 3 to 5, right?
Okay.
Price from halving to high is 7 to 28, somewhere in that range. Um, low to peak is, I don't think you can really even consider this because it's just too varied, 22 to 127. But time from halving to peak is 12 to 18 months. That's pretty consistent.
See.
Again, limited data points though. You only have
So if
3.
it's in April of 24, you could wait till April, between April to October of 25.
Yep. Yep. What my strategy is, if
So you heard it here first, folks. You will not hear this on any other channel,
so, yeah, because
despite Chris mentioning two of them. You will not hear it from others.
no, and you haven't. I haven't. I mean,
Ah,
I used to listen a lot more back in 2020 to, you know, projections in terms of cryptocurrency. I haven't really listened much as of late, though I probably will start again just because
oh,
halving's approaching.
gonna nerd out a bit.
But what I would like to be able to do, and I'm a long ways from this, is I'd like to be able to own somewhere between 5 and 7 Bitcoins, if
Hey, you're
possible.
not never supposed to say how much you own Bitcoin
What
publicly.
I want to say, so I can give my intent if I'm able to accomplish that, right? So if I own
Ah,
seven Bitcoins, um, I would probably sell one or two. Let's
Corvette.
say
You'll
I
sell a Corvette or two.
no. So if I were able to acquire 7 by December, that's my goal by December, because I think the prices will remain relatively low from what the federal government's saying. If there's going to be any kind of loosening of monetary policy, it'll probably happen towards the end of the fourth quarter. Um, so I don't think you really see much fluctuation in Bitcoin price between now until then. Um, you're probably
Been like
looking
at
at,
25K,
yeah,
26K.
it's bouncing around between 20 and 30. And I don't think you'll see it anywhere outside of that. Less than 20 or more than 30 until December. That's my opinion, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I own a good amount of XRP.
yeah, you might want to sell and get some Bitcoin, but you
No,
know,
I'm good with that. I like that one.
Bitcoin does bring all other boats up, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
like
XRP is its own little beast.
sure. But back to what I would do if I owned 7 Bitcoins. I would probably sell one or two
The
somewhere
wife's Corvette.
right around halving,
Huh.
1 or 2 Bitcoins right around halving. So let's say I sold 2. Now my money, I've returned all my money. So if you were to purchase 7 Bitcoins, it's going to cost you what, 175,000 at the current price.
Wow.
Um,
Hey, you dropped more than that on your Corvette.
no, that's not true. I didn't buy a Z06, but anyhow, um, so if it gets to what I would expect at having around 75K, you sell 2, you have your money back, right? So now you have 5 left, and you're completely playing on house money. I would probably start selling one every couple of months, starting at like around the 12-month mark,
Hmm.
right? So after halving, you go until the following April, hold, and then start selling one a month or one every other month.
Wow. So you're not one of these hodlers.
No, hell no. Let's hit the peak. I would hold two. I would hold two.
So you don't believe in Bitcoin as a long-term
No, I
investment.
do. No, and that's not necessarily true. But looking again at
Well, you
history,
said hell no.
so no, not entirely. So I've always owned one Bitcoin,
Yeah,
right? I still do.
yeah.
And have just ridden it regardless of price. But why would you not take advantage if, again, history plays out again as it has the three previous times?
Mhm.
So
Oh yeah.
once from having to high was 12 months, once it was 17 months, and once it was 18 months.
And
So
then there's the inevitable drop, but never drops lower than the previous
yep, high.
halvings highs.
Yep. It usually drops to the previous high,
Hmm.
right? So which would be
64, I think, or
60
69, 72.
69 is the
Yeah,
previous high.
yeah.
So
Bless
you
you.
sell off and you buy back in at 69, 70, 75, somewhere in there, and then you just ride it again.
Till the next halving.
Yep.
People are gonna figure this out, but if you're a Chris and Dan show subscriber, you're early. You're unique. Thank you.
It's still a gamble, in my opinion, but
So of course I gamble.
I think it's a worthwhile gamble. I think it's all a gamble, right? Stock market's a gamble to a degree.
Yeah.
Um, especially if you invest in the wrong companies, you'll find out real quick how much of a gamble it is.
Oh,
AOLS,
just being alive.
AOLS, AOLS. Scott, thank you.
Thanks so much to our CPA. Amazing advice. Shittiest stock I've ever owned. I think it actually is. Maybe the penny stock that I bought with the breakthrough was like worse, but
Yeah,
it's close.
yeah. So I mean, it's all can be a gamble to a degree. Um, I my gut tells me we got at least one more roll with Bitcoin.
Yeah. If you're having fun while investing, you're doing it wrong, I think.
Yeah.
Like you should not get dopamine kicks from investing. It means you're gambling.
Well,
It should be boring. That's when
so
you know you got a good
com
investment.
completely agree with the boring until you sell. Then you can be happy and say,
Oh yeah,
"Oh,
you can celebrate a victory, yes.
yeah,
But I'm talking about there's people that myself too that they like the dopamine kick,
sure."
and that's not investing. That's gambling.
I would absolutely agree.
So
Yeah.
when it's boring, that means you figured out a pattern. There's no need for dopamine anymore. It's like real brain waves, other brain signals firing.
Yeah.
It's not pleasure reward. It's work and then you're tired.
Yep, I agree. I guess my final thoughts would be for those that are considering buying some Bitcoin. I think you have some time. But once you start seeing the monetary policy loosening, you better start buying.
Prudent advice. And as one colleague of ours would have said, formidable.
Formidable. I like it.
Take
So
care, guys. Bye bye.
thank you for watching, everybody.